Hello and welcome to your airline's resume preparation checklist update. Yes, 21 tips to a professional kick-butt resume, your checklist, plus a kick-butt offer. For those of us born in the 60s, we can remember 8-track players. For those in the 70s, Kodak cameras. For those in the 80s and 90s, CD players. And those born less than 10 years ago, photos with resumes was fairly standard. Now certainly some things stay the same, some things disappear or at least change in how they are done. In video manual number 1 section video 5, you were introduced to resumes. It gave you some basic information and what were at the time hard and fast rules, and like everything, some of those rules certainly still remain, but time evolves and change happens because of improvement, technology, or both. Video interviews is a classic example. The accepted rules and how to answer interview questions remains the same, but the modem of how the interview is conducted is totally different for many now. With some airlines, you do not even need to leave the house, particularly for the first point of contact. Incidentally, some airlines have been doing an old-fashioned phone interview long before the internet. Now, this has graduated for many with the video interview either live or recorded. Just another example of how things are changing over time because they can. It is exactly the same with resume content format and presentation. So welcome to an update and refinement tips on resumes. Yes, the resume update checklist. Might I add that I was once an advocate of doing everything myself. Not so anymore when the stakes are so high and there is professional help available. While the actual preparation of your resume, the thought process and the information to include in it must be an absolute self-do exercise, because by the very process you will end up with a very thought out and refined document. However, this is not your final cut. The final version of your resume, I believe, should be done by a professional service, hence sourcing the provision of this service resource for your benefit with the added bonus of a 25% discount for you if you choose to use it. More detail on this in a moment. Now let me further add, incidentally, that the absolute self-do exercise of preparing your resume is so important because the results you get is dependent on the information that you formulate to put into your resume and give to your chosen professional to complete for you. They will certainly help you, but the initial effort and final content quality will depend on the information that you supply. It is a must-do exercise and will take you some time, but the investment in you to do this will pay dividends in your final work of art. That will be your resume. So 21 tips to a professional kick-butt resume. Tip number 1, first impressions count with everything. Can a person read your resume and instantly know that you are a person to be considered for the position of flight attendant with the stated airline? This means that your resume must have a clear purpose and focus. On-focus resumes target the required positive outcome and get results. Off-focus resumes get sent to the round file, which is another word for the bin. Now, simply listing a truckload of ad hoc qualifications with a more is better approach won't cut it. Remember, you only have seconds for your reader to make a value decision about you. Every word counts, every word must support your focus. Tip number 2, your resume should not be about what you want, but rather about what you can give. Avoid an objective blurb and include a summary or a profile blurb. Now, this means that your resume must tell your reader what you have to offer the employer. An objective is about what you want from your employer and is an outdated focus. A summary or a profile blurb is about what you can give to your employer. Tip number 3, is your profile specific? Is it different? Does it make you stand out? This means that do not write what everyone else does or might be expected to write. Get focused, really think about how you can emphasize the qualifications that differentiate you in benefit-driven terms. Emphasize how you would add value to the company, citing your history of specific achievements that clearly demonstrates your message. There is power in proving your value. On to tip 4, avoid cookie-cut cliches. Who are you? What is your value offer? How are you unique? And this means that you bring something to the company that others do not. You have something uniquely positive that targets an area of interest that your company values and reinforces your focus. And guys, this may be about manipulation of words. It's about a skill that you have, about experience that you have. You just needed to word it in a benefit-driven statement for the airline that you're applying to, yeah? So it doesn't mean you have to be Superman or Superwoman. It just means you have to be able to present the skills that you have in benefit-driven terms in a unique way. Yeah, it pays dividends. On to tip 5. Always be self-driven but employer-focused. And this means that while this is all about you, it is not all about you. It is about the company and what you can bring to the company. Absolutely limit the word of I, me and my, and certainly your words imply I, but avoid its expression in print. And this takes an artwork, this takes professionalism, this takes experience, and this takes someone that knows how to do this on your behalf. You must be employer focused. Moving on to tip number 6. Resist the urge to brag. What you actually achieve says more about you than what you say you're responsible for achieving. And this means that your focus is not about telling your potential new employee what you know how to do or are responsible for. Your focus is demonstrating that you actually do what you know and are responsible for. Don't sell the sizzle, sell the steak. Basically, what are your actual achievements? What are your results? How does this benefit your employee? This is not a job description, this is a report card. Tip number 7, it's quantifiable results and benefits that count. And you'll notice some of these guys, these will marry into one tip into the other. Yeah, it's just a different way of looking at some of this sometimes that will really help you in preparation of your resume. So moving on, this means that you include dollar figures, percentages, raw numbers, bottom line improvements, proof of customer satisfaction, which are all expressed as a benefit to the company. Yes, in effect, what did you do and what were the quantifiable results or outcomes? Moving on to tip 8, does your resume SAO your success stories? Now this means that you present the situation, you tell of your actions, and you report your outcome, SAO. This is applied to your interviews, which you will learn a lot more about in video manual 3. However, there is also a twist on this. See tip number 9. SAO in resume terms means that yes, this is a tough ask and it's your outcomes, your results that speak loudest, but a story in great brevity can present handsomely because the reader can put your achievement into context and how that will potentially benefit them. There's that word, benefit again. Focus your focus on the areas of interest that your airline is looking for and state your proof of outcomes. Moving on to tip 9, focus on what your potential employer wants. Reverse and manipulate SAO. Now this means that you start with your results, your outcome of SAO, then weave in the situation and the action you did to achieve it. For example, increased customer numbers by 33%, which is an outcome, by implementing a reward program. That was the action that you took, that some long-term customers had suggested. That was the situation in which your outcome and action were based on, yeah? So it's just one example, but go over that again, and if you can manipulate your SAO in that format, totally acceptable. Moving on to number 10. Actions are where it's at, and so is grammar. Now this means that actions are doing, they are results focused. Verbs are the expression of action, improved, increased, gave birth, etc. Keep a statement action block and bullet points in the same tense, however, either current, past or future. Do not mix them. It might seem a small detail, but to read a bullet list that includes past, present and future text is a long way from ideal. Tip number 11, keyword focus. This means that your resume is focused and marries to the outcome of what is naturally expected, and keywords are key to this. Keywords can be gleaned commonly from a company's job description because it states exactly what the airline wants. It makes critical sense to utilize these gems in your resume. It means that you're on the same page, you are using the same terminology that the airlines use in their very own advertisement of their job description. Intelligently include these in the words that you write. Use words and terminology that the airline uses, parallels, marries to, and gives power to your focus. And moving on to tip number 12. Education is important, but is not always the most important. And this means that a degree in making tomato jam is not relevant to the job of flight attendant. It does not need to be included and is nothing more than a resume filler or a brag statement and serves no purpose. So simply leave it out. You might care, but your new employee doesn't, and you are wasting space and losing focus. The education that you do include should be placed with relevance. The higher the relevance, the more critical its placement in your resume. Which brings us to tip 13, relevance and intended marketplace. Now this means that, similar to the above point, each word counts and any word or inclusion can eliminate you. Do not include what is not asked for. Focus on what is asked for. Be aware of countries such as the USA where many employers simply do not accept the inclusion of personal details such as date of birth, photos, religious affiliation, etc. Those that hire do not want to be associated with any resume that presents possibility of a claim of discrimination if it doesn't turn out their way, of course. And if you include such information, you are literally forcing their hand. On to tip 14, it's a resume, not war and peace, and this means that you include relevant history, not all of it. It also means that any that you do include is strategically included. That is, it has a purpose, it supports your focus, yeah? This is common sense, guys. Unfortunately, it's not that common to too many, but let me not interrupt myself and move on. This will obviously vary depending on your age. A 40-year-old has no purpose to include schooling information, but it's totally different if you are 18 years of age. Moving on to tip 15, does a resume look good? No, not the content, the layout. And this means that it's all about the eye, the look, the first sense that your airline HR representative uses. What do they see? Yes, your resume design should be built around the information that you put into it, but it also requires eye-pleasing power, so often not a cookie cut template that should be avoided where at all possible. Hence another reasoning for a professional layout done by a professional resume writer. Yes, looks count. A greatly crafted resume that is positively unique, has page balance and structure, is inviting and sets your resume apart from a sea of generic resumes. In a very real sense, it's the design and structure. Moving on to tip 16, is your resume theme and design consistent? This means that things such as headlines, text spacing, color, font, terminology, and overall look is the same. Headlines used do not differ in font size or font type, and the same applies to text. Spacing is consistent as is any page color, etc. There is uniformity and obvious presentation in your layout with an inviting page flow structure of information. And on to tip 17, white space is gold. And this means that it is not just that you have white space, but how you use it. White space, like page layout, should be used strategically to complement page layout, to achieve balance and improve readability, and page flow of information and readability is made easy, yeah? Moving on to tip 18, your resume should be as long as it should be, but as short as it can be. And this means that you say what you have to say and is absolutely necessary. You make every word count and cut any superlative or unnecessary mutter. 2 pages is the goal. Added pages to a resume are like Google searches. Literally no one goes past the second page. Don't think, however, if 2 pages are great, then one must be better. Being too brief and succinct is just that, too brief and in actual fact, not succinct to achieve your objective. You need a certain depth of resume content to sell yourself. Failure to utilise the power of 2 pages impacts you negatively and misses the standard industry acceptance of 2 pages. Some may, but very few, require the space of 3 pages to apply for a flight attendant position. And moving on to tip 19, remove superfluous words, as we've just mentioned before, that do not contribute. This means that an emotional, self-written pitch in the form of a resume can be fluffy and suffer from too many filler words. Be mindful of saying something in 6 words when you can say the same thing with 4. If a word does not serve you in the sentence or statement structure, then remove it. Be crisp, concise, and to the point in saying what you have to say. And moving on to tip 20, proof your work and have your work proofed. And guys, this is, I guess it's not in total order or in preference, these tips, but this is a big one. You really do need to proof your work and have your work proofed. It means that your resume contains no errors, not a letter, not a plural, not a spelling error, not a grammatical error, not an ink stain. It also means that the best proofreader of your work is not you, so have someone else help you when it comes to both reading and understanding your resume and checking it for content and also checking it grammatically. There is no reason, no excuse, absolutely none for your resume to contain an error. None. And tip 21, get professional help. See more of this below for a kick butt offer, too good not to refuse. Let's move on over the page to the tip summary. Before we get to tip 21, of course, the position of flight attendant is extremely sought after. The failure rate of those that actually apply and those that actually secure a job with an airline is extraordinarily high. It means that the success margin is extraordinarily low, at somewhere around 3%, which dictates that everything, including your resume, needs to be 100% plus. It is not good enough to wing it and settle for anything less than perfect. Good enough is simply not good enough. Aside the huge numbers of applicants attracted to the job of flight attendant, and that you now know the success failure rate is up around the 3%, 97% mark, and that many airlines will stipulate that if you're unsuccessful in your application, then a wait time is required before reapplication is accepted, then you really do not want to lose even one opportunity. Every day at every opportunity is always important to differentiate yourself from all competition, to stand out, to get recognised, and it starts with your resume. So tip 21 continued, get professional help. Yes, from my perspective, as time has evolved in the airline industry, I can only recommend that professional help with your resume is not only essential, but critical in this evergreen competitive industry. Yes, certainly compile and prepare and fine-tune the information and content required for your application, utilising everything you've learned in the airlines program, and of course, these valuable tips. But invest in yourself at this very moment with the help and expertise of a professional. Let them take your resume draft and give it the polish, the expertise that it needs to give you a document that works for you as it should. Flying, from my point of view, the job, the career, is way too good not to do whatever I could do in any area required to get the job, and a professionally written resume is just one very important part of this equation. Guys, this career is so worth it to invest in yourself. You must get the basics right. If you agree, then we are here to help you with that investment with an awesome added bonus of what is a 25% discount on professional services to help you make this happen for you. Yes, simply fill in the details below and immediately auto-reply email with some details will come your way. You will then receive an email from your professional resume writer along with a resume questionnaire that is designed to identify the best in you and for your resume writer to put that into a document that you will be very proud of. Yes, it's fast, it's professional, and it puts you in the ideal starting place. Don't waste the opportunity or run the risk of doing it alone when proven help, advice, and professional services are available. Get the competitive advantage working for you. And remember, you qualify for a 25% discount just because you're an airlines member. Just how much will you save using these independent services? Let's just first look at what this might cost you if you look to outsource this required most important, and I would also say critical part of your flight attendant journey. Now, the following prices were found with a simple Google search. You'll also see the reference website to those services if you want to go ahead and check. However, let's take a look at what it is costing some people starting out to become a flight attendant. Now, this graphic was taken from Resume Edge, and it offers an entry-level price, but it really isn't really an option for most, and it is targeted at students. You also get what you pay for, I guess, and this one is no exception. The only realistic pricing option here for most people applying for a flight attendant position is $249 over the page. Now, this one is from a Right Resume, and offers a rather pricey level 1 resume at $299. And again, this option is not really an option for most because it has two qualifiers on it, being less than 2 years work experience and a non-management role. The only realistic pricing option here for most people applying for a flight attendant position is $399. Now, this one is from Live Career Office and an entry level price of $99, but this also is not really an option because if you are anything more than a student, then you don't qualify. Again, you get what you pay for. The pricing structure here also seems to allow for additional costs, so I'd be wary of that if you were to go ahead and use them. However, and saying that, the only realistic pricing option that I can see here for most people applying for the flight attendant position is $199. Now, this one is from Resume World and offers a blistering entry price of $495. Amazing, yeah? Even a formatting price will cost you $95. Wow. Don't get stung. You do not need to pay these prices. The only realistic pricing option here, if you want a full resume writing service, which is obviously recommended when applying for the flight attendant position, is a blistering $495. Now, moving on over to the page, what will it cost you and how much will you save to have a professional resume through this recommendation? By the way, there are no clauses, there are no levels or separate entry prices, no separation between, price between student or worker, just one price for a professional resume for your application of flight attendant written by a dedicated writer, and which comes with an added awesome 25% discount because you are a member of this airlines program. Now, don't pay $249 or $399 or even that blistering $499. Your resume, your professional resume writer, has a normal blanket price of just $200. And today, as a member of this program, you can qualify for a 25% discount on top of that. So get everything you need from someone that is intimately familiar with this airlines program and what you are looking for, and you'll receive to your absolute satisfaction your professional flight attendant resume guaranteed for just $150. Yes, that's saving you an awesome $50 in the process. Yes, your personal resume service is just a click away. Simply order and pay via the PayPal and your professional resume writer will begin the process. And just a note there, this service has been negotiated on your behalf and is independent of this airlines program. This is an introduction offer, and by selecting a payment option, you'll be in direct communication with your professional resume service provider. And remember, becoming a flight attendant is not just getting a job, it is forging a career. So over the page, meet your professional resume writer, and we may have more come on board as demand requires, guys, but on the making of this video, say hello to Kelsey. And I'll read this. This is her words. Hello, this is Kelsey. It's Tom, of course, but it's Kelsey, your flight attendant resume and cover letter writing specialist on behalf of the airlines program. I understand that the position of flight attendant is extremely sought after. The failure rate of those that actually apply and those that actually secure a job with an airline is extraordinarily high. It means that everything in your application and interview process, including your resume and cover letter if required, needs to be 100% plus. Specifically here, your resume has to do three things very well, or it will be simply overlooked. It must be compelling and targeted. Why should a prospective employer hire you? It must be creative. You need to stand out and compete with thousands of resumes. It must be well organised. Who wants to read a resume that is all over the place? She goes on to say, I also understand that some airlines will require you to have a cover letter. Again, these two have to be 100% plus. Your cover letter has to hit the mark in 30 seconds or less, or the odds are that it will simply be overlooked. It must clearly convey an image of who you are. It must clearly convey that why you want the job and what you are capable of and how you have used your abilities to accomplish results. So cover letters. Yes, most airlines ask for these also, and is why we also offer this service. Before you select your payment option, you can view our airline's cover letter preparation page update and the link in the page that you'll see down below there. If you do need a cover letter for the airline that you wish to apply to, then simply purchase the resume and cover letter package in the PayPal link for an added $49 only. Yes, a total package deal is just $199. It's exclusive and a special price to airlines members. When you need a cover letter to make an impact in 30 seconds or less, don't miss this package opportunity. So what happens when you select a payment option? As soon as your payment is processed, you'll receive a questionnaire with 14 specific questions to complete about your resume, detail and content. And just a note there, if you choose the resume and cover letter package option, you'll also receive a questionnaire with 16 specific questions to complete about your cover letter, detail and content. You can also expect initial contact from me, that's Kelsey of course, your resume writer, via email, and in her words again, I will explain the process of what happens from this point to the delivery of your professionally written and presented resume. Let's communicate shortly, order today. And so that's it guys, your airline's resume preparation checklist update with your 21 tips to professional kick butt resume, your checklist plus your kick butt offer. Chat to you soon.